What is vetting, really, right? What is vetting? Why do they do that? The whole reason nominees for high office get checked out, the whole reason they get vetted, the whole reason there's supposed to be a deep dive background check on anyone applying for a security clearance, anybody potentially being appointed to high office, the whole reason to do that is to make sure there isn't going to be any leverage against them or any hidden dynamics at play while they have a sensitive position on behalf of the United States of America. So you want to know, like, is this person a foreign agent? Or were they a foreign agent in the past? Are they linked to organized crime? Do they have a criminal background of any kind or links to criminal associates? Is this person on someone's payroll or in debt to someone? Are they addicted to drugs or alcohol or gambling? Is there anything about this person's life or background that makes them potentially vulnerable to blackmail or extortion? Is there anything that can be known about them that they really wouldn't want to get out and they might do anything to keep it from being made public? Well, how about if a guy got his job only because the contents of an official government report into his alleged child sex trafficking was politically suppressed, and he's therefore desperate to keep that hidden from the public? While, among many other people involved in the process, at least 10 members of Congress have that report that he is desperate to keep hidden. Is that a good situation for the Attorney General of the United States to be in? This election, it turns out, was close. Closer than the rhetoric and the noise around it would make you think. Donald Trump only improved on his electoral vote showing from 2016 by 6 EVs. He got 6 more electoral votes than he got in his razor-thin win in 2016. He went from 306 to 312. In 2016, at least in all the states he won, the Republican Senate candidate won as well. In this election, that did not happen. There were 4 states where Trump won, but the Republican Senate candidate lost. So his coattails were pretty short, pretty thin. Republicans in the House will still have only a teeny tiny majority, one of the smallest majorities in history. The popular vote still to this day continues to get tallied up. It looks like Trump will end up being below 50% of the popular vote, which means most of the people who came out and voted in this election voted for someone else, not Trump. So he won, yeah. But it's a narrow win. Here's how the New York Times put it. Quote, Trump secured his victory by just a cumulative 237,000 votes in 3 states that, had they gone the other way, would have meant victory for Harris. So it was a narrow win for Trump, but it was a win. And in addition to holding on to their tiny majority in the House next year, Republicans will also take control of the Senate next year. But that's next year. And that means for Democrats, right now, right this very minute, this is an important time. And they should be making the most of every second they continue to control the Senate. And in the weird circumstances we're in right now, that could mean telling the FBI to hand over their file on the federal criminal investigation into Matt Gaetz. Hand that over to the Senate. It could mean trying to subpoena the Ethics Committee report from the House if they refuse to release it. It could mean that the Senate gets testimony themselves from the witnesses who testified about Matt Gaetz to the House Ethics Committee. None of these things are normal to happen in a transition, but I say this, right? I mean, under normal circumstances, all those things I just described, those would all happen while confirmation hearings were underway for Trump's appointees, right? Or they're things that you could be assured would happen when the FBI did background checks on people for the confirmation process or for security clearances or whatever, right? With this new administration coming in, though, they don't want to do background checks. They reportedly are not doing background checks for their potential nominees. And of course, they don't want confirmation hearings of any kind either. The president-elect, Donald Trump, is demanding that the Senate should go into recess so he can install anyone he wants in any job with no vetting by anyone, no confirmation process, no hearings, no vote. So Democrats are in a really interesting position, right? With that demand by Trump on the table, demanding that there just be recess appointments only, no confirmations. With that demand on the table, there's no reason for Democrats in the Senate to wait, right? It's possible no confirmation hearings are ever coming for any of these nominees. So if there is something the American people should know, about any of these people who Trump says are going to be his nominees running the government, well, now might be the only chance to do it. While Senate Democrats still have the gavel and can still use that power, including subpoena power, to do what might be the only vetting any of these nominees will ever get. Senator Blumenthal today saying that for the Senate Armed Services Committee, that might include holding a hearing to get testimony from witnesses who say they have information about the rape allegation against Donald Trump's choice for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Fox News host Pete Hegseth denies that he sexually assaulted or raped anybody, but he now admits paying a woman to stay silent about her rape allegation against him. We should note that California authorities never brought charges against him when they investigated that matter, but we're going to be speaking with a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee about that possibility, about that nomination and more coming up here live in just a moment. I do think it's worth being very clear-eyed, very realistic about what's going on here and what options people have right now in this moment. Obviously, I think it seems clear to the Democrats that they ought to spend this time while they are still in control of the Senate, confirming as many federal judges as possible. They are working on that. They confirmed another federal appeals court judge just tonight, so that's something. But there are literally dozens of Biden judicial nominees still pending, and there's no reason the Democrats in the Senate cannot work around the clock and through every second of the time they've got left to confirm every one of those pending Biden judicial nominations. That seems like a very obvious point and a good way to spend their time. What is maybe the less obvious point, though, is that the Congress, the whole U.S. Capitol, right? Both houses of Congress, they're really in a fight for their existence at this moment. Whether they know it or not, whichever party they're in, whatever lovely relationship they think they have on a personal level with Donald Trump, the project of someone who is authoritarian-minded when they get into power is to consolidate all power in themselves, which means taking it away from everyone else, right? And there's been a lot of talk about how Trump is doing that within the executive branch, taking away the independence of any agency, any department, anything that we think of as the federal government, including law enforcement, right? That's been discussed a lot. Trump consolidating power within the executive branch. There has been less talk about how Trump is also trying to consolidate all the other power of the government as well, namely, and especially, the power that Congress has. Under the Constitution, the Senate has the right and responsibility to confirm nominees to important jobs in the government. Not just the cabinet. It's more than 1,000 positions that are supposed to be Senate confirmed. Trump has publicly told the Senate that for his next term, he demands that they stop doing that. He has told them explicitly that they must recess, shut themselves down, because he wants them to have no say in who he puts in office, no matter what the Constitution says. That's why the Democrats who are in control in the Senate right now, they may have the only opportunity they may have the only chance the public's going to have to hold hearings on and investigate and vet and tell the public what the public needs to know about these nominees. It is weird to try to do this in the transition before the nominations are formally made by the newly sworn in president, but honestly, that'll be too late. Trump is the one who made it weird by making this demand that the Senate not confirm any of his appointees. Democrats should take him at his word and do the hearings now. But it's not just the Senate. The Washington Post was first to report that these guys are also planning to try to kibosh the other major role that Congress has in governing the United States, which is the power of the purse, right? The money, appropriating the funds that the government spends. Washington Post reports that part of the plan for Trump's radical austerity program that he has outsourced to eccentric right-wing billionaire Elon Musk, part of the plan is that they're not going to have Musk and his commission, whatever it is, they're not going to have them make a proposal to Congress as to what Elon Musk thinks ought to be cut out of the government. They're just planning on cutting it all directly, having Musk just tell Trump what to do, and then having Trump just make the cuts himself, leaving Congress out of it, getting rid of, in other words, the power of the purse. So it's just decided between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And this isn't small stuff, right? This is putting the accused child sex trafficking guy who says he wants to abolish the FBI and maybe the whole Justice Department in charge of the Justice Department without any vetting or confirmation hearing or background check or vote. This is, according to the guy who is heading up the austerity program with Elon Musk, a plan to, quote, delete the government, which is the exact same language used by the influential radical blogger who J.D. Vance cites as a major influence on his thinking. This guy, Curtis Yarvin, is the one who started this thing on the far right, that the government needs to be, quote, deleted. He says the government needs to be deleted, and then we need to replace it with something new, something for which he says we will, quote, need to get over our dictator phobia. We need to delete the government and then get over our dictator phobia. They're not trying to abolish the fundamental functions of Congress. They're not trying to get rid of Article 1 of the Constitution to do small stuff. They're trying to get rid of Article 1 of the Constitution. They're trying to marginalize and disempower the whole Congress in order to do the most radical things imaginable. And you know what? Nobody loves Congress. But you'll love it a lot compared to the alternative when it's gone. Because I, for one, have plenty of dictator phobia. I think that's a healthy phobia to have, and I have no plans to get over it my whole life. Nobody knows if the Republicans in Congress will fight to keep our structure of government, whether they will roll over and let Trump, say, for a start, get rid of the Senate's role in voting on nominations, whether they will just roll over and let Trump take over the power of the purse and start directly controlling all spending. But that's what Trump is trying to do. And right now, for these next few weeks before he's in power, it's actually in Democrats' power. It is in Democrats' hands in the Senate to show what the Congress can do, to show what it's for, to do the job, and to make it as hard as possible for them to get away with the worst things they are trying to do even before they take over. That's doable, and that is something that is doable right now.